All right, so it says we are live on YouTube.
So welcome everyone to tonight's meeting. This is the regular meeting of council. It's live streamed electronically, December the 21st. So welcome everyone, our staff, our council, and the public, hopefully who are watching and listening. So welcome everybody. So now our meeting is open, and if I can please call for a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So our meeting is open, and I do have a motion to adopt the agenda, but is there anything, was there anything moved forward to action? I don't have it down here. There's nothing, it's nothing down on the motion. Yes, Claus?
You're muted.
No, you're muted.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Under the correspondence, item 8B, child care support from the township that sent in the letter asking us to support it.
Okay, so did you have that earlier, Andrew?
Andrew's
Or
muted.
Christie? No?
So I think what we're saying is we're going to move that item to
Yeah, but
action.
we should try to do that before the meeting if possible, and then it's already on the motion. But I do have a mover and seconder. So there's nothing else to move forward then? Okay, so I do have a motion. It was moved by Jeff Carroll and seconded by Karen Jennings that council agree to move items 8B from information item to action item for discussion. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. I also have a motion moved by Karen Jennings, second by Ian Straight, that the regular meeting of council agenda dated December the 21st, 2021 be approved as amended. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. I'll also remind all of council that if you do have any disclosure of interest, you can declare it now or anytime during the meeting. And before we get into the minutes of the previous meeting, I have a couple of things I'd like to do here and mention to everyone. First of all, because it's our meeting is virtual, it's a little difficult to do some of this, but I did want to mention in previous years, when we do get Christmas cards, I usually put them on the chamber table so everybody can get to see it, but I do have 4 here that I'd just like to acknowledge. We did get a best wishes card from the town of Perth. We did also get one from the town of Drummond North Elmsley. We have a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays card from our Premier Doug Ford. And finally, we have another card wishing all of us a happy holiday season and all the best for 2022. And that's from Deanna and Steve Clark, MPP for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes. So those are the 4 cards that have come in. And then also, this is also something that I'd like to bring to everyone's attention. Last year, the people that I'm going to mention did get recognition certificates from us, but their names were not mentioned in a meeting. So I'd like to bring, this is going to be for 2020. These are the first names I'm going to mention are for the year 2020. And these are recognizing the years of service for these people. So I'm going to start with the least number of years and moving up. And this is for last year. And then I'm going to mention 2021. So the people who have got to the 5-year plateau and who did receive the certificate last year, but we're recognizing them now. Those people are Jasmine Ralph from the municipal staff, Josh McFarlane, Public Works Department, Wendy Simpson, Library Board, Lois Patchell, Library Board, and Sarah Lynn Martin from the Library Board. And moving up to the 10 years, we have Josh McFarlane again for the Fire Department, Shane Martin for the Fire Department, and Jim Abbas representing committees. Moving forward, 15 years of service. Jordan Hamill for the Fire Department, 20 years. Claire Porter for committees, and 25 years of service. Miles Greer, our fire chief for the Fire Department. So congratulations to all those people, and it's great to recognize you. Now, jumping ahead, today I did sign these certificates, and they will be passed out to the following people. The first one is Laura Lawson, our municipal law enforcement officer for 20 years. And an amazing number of years, I think, 2 people. And this is so fabulous, I think. And it's too bad we weren't having our Christmas appreciation dinner for our volunteers and staff, but to really recognize these people. But 2 people have got to the 45-year plateau this year, both with our fire department, and that being Donald McConnell and Wayne Convey. So congratulations to both you, Wayne and Donald, for 45 long years of service to us, and we very much appreciate it. And finally, yours truly hit the 15-year mark. So I'm not sure, I haven't signed it yet to myself, but I guess Christy will eventually look after that. So congratulations to everybody on all of those years recognizing your year of service. So thank you very much to everybody. Now moving forward, I have another motion moved by Ian Straight and seconded by Claus Vandermeer that the minutes of the regular meeting of council December the 7th, 2021 be approved as circulated. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Do we have any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none, then we're moving forward. We have no delegations tonight, and we have no reports of municipal officers, but we have 4 reports of committees. Basically, it's all approving minutes. The first one is moved by Claus Vandermeer, second by Jeff Carl, that the minutes of the special committee of the whole meeting of November the 30th, 2021, and the regular meeting of committee of the whole of December the 7th, 2021, be approved as circulated. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Do we have any business from those minutes? Jeff?
Real quick, Reva, I just want to clarify something about the budget meeting too as well. I misunderstood the communication back and forth with myself and Treasurer Hodge. But when we were talking about the budget and what the increase was for the overall budget, and there was a 2.67% increase. that was in regards to an actual tax increase and not just the actual increase that I thought when I stated that in the meeting. So I just wanted to clear that up a bit to make sure that that's well known by all members of council, if there was any confusion with that too as well.
Thank you, Jeff. Anything else? Moving on then, we have a motion moved by Jeff Carroll, second by Karen Jennings, that the minutes of the Police Services Board meeting of September the 9th, 2021 be approved as circulated. All in favor? Those are carried. Thank you. Any questions there? Jeff?
I do have a question, maybe back to you, Reeve, if you don't mind. I did watch the last one real quick, just because I know that's pertinent to what's on our committee of the whole meeting with speed. And I'm wondering if there's anything that I might have missed in that meeting, or any update, or something that you might bring up, and even when we're discussing it in the next part of the meeting, just the insight from the Police Services Board or the officers that were there about the change of road speeds. And I know there was talk about empirical data and everything in that meeting. And I'm just curious, as we make this decision, the input from that side of it too as well.
No, I don't think there's anything to bring forward other than what was said in the meeting. And I know that when it'll be on the I guess on our committee meetings that we'll hear the report from Steve.
Okay.
But basically all they were saying was that they wanted to see that type of information. So that's what was said in the meeting.
That was it. Okay. I just want to make sure I kind of got
Yep.
everything that was there. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Also then we have another motion. It was moved by Karen Jennings, second by Ian Straight, that the minutes of the Rideau Valley Conservation Authority meetings of July the 22nd, 21, and September the 23rd, 2021, and October the 28th, 2021 be approved as circulated. All in favor? Those are carried. Any questions? Moving forward, moved by Ian Straight, second by Klaus Vandermeer, that the minutes of the Merrickville Library Board meetings of November the 10th, 2021 and November the 17th, 2021 be approved as circulated. All in favor? All in favor, please? Yep, that's carried. Thank you. No questions for them? Seeing none, moving on. Moved by Klaus Vandermeer. Seconded by Jeff Carroll, that council received the resignation letter from Jasmine Ralph as information. So yeah, before we vote on this, I guess, Klaus, do you have a comment?
Yeah, we skipped the notice of motions.
Yeah, we're coming to it yet. Oh, I
Oh,
see.
sorry.
Okay, all right. So that's under action. I'm sorry, I apologize there, Klaus. So we will backtrack. We will backtrack. We did approve the minutes of the Merrickville Library Board. So the next was petitions, and we have none. We have no bylaws. And I should have asked, do we have any motions and notice of motions? Yes, Klaus?
Yes, I'd like to make a notice that I'll be bringing forward a motion at the January meeting in regards to the interview committee to replacement of our clerk administrator. I'll be bringing a motion forward in regards to that.
Okay, so Christy, do you have that down then? Okay. All right, thanks, Klaus. Moving on to correspondence. The first correspondence action item that we have was the resignation letter. And as I said, I'll just read it again. Moved by Klaus Vandermeer, seconded by Jeff Carroll, that the committee received the resignation letter from Jasmine Ralph as information. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Thank you. Also, we have a motion moved by Jeff Carroll, second by Kieran Jennings, that council receive the council assigned tasks item as information. All in favor? Those are carried. Thank you. The other items there now, we were moving the information item B was moved forward. And I believe it was you that moved that forward, Claus.
Yeah,
Over to
I
you.
apologize. Reeve, it's 8D, not B.
Yep.
Sorry, my mistake. So I'd just like our council to support the letter that the City of St. Catharines resolution made in National Child Care Program to the provincial government. I think it's worthwhile for us to support this. It's a very big concern on childcare situations across Ontario. We're just asking that we would support that letter.
So are you moving this as support?
Yes.
So we need a seconder to put it on the table. Then it was moved, it was seconded by Karen. All in favor? Sorry, I can't see everybody. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Thank you, Claus.
Thank you.
Now, under unfinished and business and other business, I just like to say now, I was going to wait till the committee meeting, but before we go to the public and ask for questions, I just want to express my own thoughts and wish everyone a Merry Christmas and best wishes for a good holiday. Hopefully it'll be restful, and most of all, I hope everybody has a safe holiday. And we'll be looking forward to a different, hopefully, and better year ahead as far as COVID and all the variants come. But for now, I just like to express my wishes to everyone, all the residents of Montague Township, along with all our staff. And thank you very much to all our staff for a great year of work and our council. So just best wishes to everyone for that. Now I'm going to go to you, Christy, and ask if you have any questions from the public.
I just checked and I don't have any questions.
Okay, thank you. Then I have a motion. It was moved by Karen Jennings and second by Ian Straight that the bylaw 3875, 2021, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its regular meeting held on December the 21st, 2021, be read for a second and third time and passed, signed and sealed this 21st day of December, 2021. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Moved by Ian Straight, seconded by Claus Vandermeer, that this meeting do now adjourn at 6:18 p.m. until the call of the Reeve, subject to need. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. So that brings an end to this meeting. I'm not sure if we broke a record or not, but if we did, it's the last one of the year. So thank you very much, everyone. And that's it for now. And then if we could take a minute or two, just say 2 minutes max, so that we can slip over to the next meeting. We'll just take 2 minutes.
You're muted, Bill.
Thanks, Jeff. Somebody else must have unmuted me. I think it was Christy. So everything's ready for this meeting, Christy? Okay, Ian, do we have you with us? Okay. Okay, then, welcome everyone. We're going to go into our committee of the whole meeting. It is also being live streamed electronically. This is December the 21st. And I declare this meeting now open. And also, if you have any disclosure of interest, council, you can declare it now or anytime during the meeting. My first motion here I have is by Ian Straight and second by Klaus Vandermeer, that the committee of the whole agenda dated December the 21st, 2021 be approved. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We have no delegations tonight, but we have quite a few reports of municipal officers. And our first one is going to be the development charges study. And we have our consultant planner, Forbes Simon, with us. I see you on the screen, Forbes, so welcome again. Thank you for this study. And I'm going to hand this part of the meeting over to you now. Thank you, Forbes.
Thanks very much, Reeve. It's a pleasure to be with you and council this evening. Christy, do I just do my share screen?
Yes.
Okay. Do you see that?
Yes, we do.
Thank you very much, Reeve. I'm going to make this relatively quick and brief. Though this is an important study for the township and it relates to the finances going forward. And so we were retained by Montague Township to do a development charge study update. The agenda tonight, we're going to talk about the purpose of the development charges, the study methodology, population projections, municipal services, proposed rates, and service allocation, as well as next steps. The key principles for development charge is that it pays for increased capital costs because of increased service needs coming from development. It's based on the concept that growth pays for growth, and that taxpayers should not have to pay for growth-related capital costs. The same thing is that new taxpayers should not have to contribute more than their fair share to the capital costs for their growth-related increases. The Development Charges Act requires that a background study be prepared and outline a number of factors, but that the study be prepared and available to the public before council pass a bylaw for development charges. The study that we've done is to determine the eligible development charges that may be collected with growth related capital costs over the next 10-year period. The study was done following the requirements of the Development Charges Act and is intended to conform to the provincial legislation and meets the needs of the township. The study approach we undertook involved a growth forecast based on historic patterns, determination of average level of service that ratepayers currently receive in service areas. We've done projections in terms of growth and the elements of growth. We've done calculations based on the type of development, whether it's residential, commercial, or industrial. In terms of the calculations for net growth related capital costs, we have used 2021 present values. We've looked at the net capital cost per person. We've determined household occupancy rates. We've assessed the credits and balances, and we've come up with a charge per residential unit based on the types of units or on the class of land. The township services that we're looking at include general government, which essentially is the funding of the future development charge studies, as well as official plan updates that can get funded through the general development. Fire protection services, transportation, and recreation. Those are the 4 service areas that we focused on going forward. In terms of population, the 2016 census was the last formal official population count done in the municipality. We have made efforts to project that to the current rate, or the current date, I mean. We've anticipated that there's been slightly less than 300 people added to the population of the township over the last 5 years. We won't know until February how accurate that number is when the new census figures come out. Using that, however, we were able to make a projection going forward to 2031 from the current position. And we're anticipating over that 10-year period, another 310 people being added to the population in Montague. The interesting thing about that is that household sizes are decreasing. And so you actually see more housing units being constructed over that period than population would suggest, but it's because the households are less than 2.5 persons per household. So over the next 10 years, we expect about 310 people to be added to the population count. In terms of development charges that were calculated, the single detached is coming in at around $3,446. Just for your reference, the current rate is $3,248. So the rate we're talking about represents a 6% increase for a single detached house, or roughly $200. One thing is the commercial rate is going lower, and that's because there is a lower proportion of commercial industrial development today than what there was previously, and therefore the amount that they're required to pay is less because the demand on commercial industrial is less. It's also worth noting that a number of municipalities do waive the industrial fee, but in this case, it's quite modest. For a 10,000 square foot industrial building, the development charges would be less than $1,000. In terms of where the development charge money would go if it's collected, roughly 2.5% would go to the general government. That's the studies. About 7% would go to fire protection. The vast majority of the development charge money that's collected goes to roads and public works, and there have been some large reconstruction projects that have been identified for the development charge funds. And then a little less than 10% would go to recreation. In terms of what this means in a financial breakdown for the typical single detached residence, it's about $86 for general eligible, $240 for fire protection, almost $2,800 for transportation, and a little less than $340 for recreation. That's where the money would be allocated to on an annual basis. It's always important to have an appreciation of where your municipality stands in relation to the development charges in other municipalities. I would point out that you're going to be one of the lower DC rates in the county, but you're going to be very close to the Tay Valley rate, the Rideau Lakes rate, or the Drummond North Elmsley rate, albeit slightly less than those, but it is worthwhile to note where you're going to stand. In terms of the rates that are presented to you in the background report, council does have the option to adopt the rate as recommended. You can choose to have a lower rate with the understanding that any reduction in development charges has to be picked up by the general ratepayers. You could omit certain category rates, such as industrial, which is, it happens primarily in the urban centers, they'll do that. And you can deal with exemptions and defined exemptions. At this point in time, that's an option for you, and you can wait until the public meeting and consider this more before you decide what direction you wish to proceed. In terms of going forward, we have published the background report on your website. There's a public meeting that's scheduled for January 20th. And then there's a tentative date for adoption of a development charge bylaw at your meeting in February on the 15th, all of which is subject to a 20-day appeal period. Mayor, that is the end of my presentation. If there's any questions that you wish to ask at this time, I'm happy to try and answer them.
Okay. Well, first of all, Forbes, thanks. I think you presented this in such a simple, understandable fashion that I'm sure that we all very, very much appreciate it. And I know there's been lots of detail put into it. So I feel that you've done a very, very good job. But we have two questions already. First one, Claus, and then to Ian.
You're muted, Claus.
You're muted, Claus.
I don't know, learn how to do this. Sorry, Forbes. Again, thank you for a very well detailed report. It's very easy to understand, especially for our listening audience who are hopefully listening in, and potential builders in our township. I think it's very well done. I do have a question. The numbers that you gave and so forth, are they very well in comparison to other townships of our size? You're muted, sir.
You're muted now.
In terms of the development charge rate, I looked to Drummond North Elmsley. I looked to Beckwith. They're both experiencing more growth than you, and so it would be typical that they would have a higher rate. And so I think that the last page of the slide shows the comparisons. It's also in the background report for you. And what you find is that you're going to be in the bottom end of rates being charged, but within the ballpark of other rural municipalities. In the urban municipalities, you see much higher rates because they have much more infrastructure to look after, and the urban areas with sewer and water are experiencing high growth rates at the present moment. So, Deputy Reeve, I think that you're going to find that your position has been pretty well maintained amongst rural municipalities in sort of the bottom end of the development charges being issued.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Forbes. On to you, Ian, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Forbes, for the report. I guess I have a couple questions for you, if you don't mind, sir. Your growth only shows, if I saw the graph right, it only shows 300 people over the next 10 years coming to, an increase, I guess, of 300 people over the next 10 years in the township. There we go.
You're absolutely right, Councillor Straight, that it is anticipating that there would be around 310 people over the next 10 years. You do have an aging population, perhaps slightly older than some of the other surrounding municipalities, and that keeps the number of persons per household low, and that gets reflected in the projections going forward. One thing I do caution you about the projections is that if all of a sudden Montague became a popular spot for young families to move to, those numbers would change significantly. And that's why you do this update on a 5-year basis, to be able to keep track of those trends. But you're absolutely correct, Councillor Straight. It is around 310 over the next 10 years.
And a couple follow-up questions for us, if you don't mind, sir.
Not at all.
The rate, is that, can we increase the rate above what you suggested?
The development charge rate?
Yes.
It is possible. The one thing that you have to be very, very careful about, Councillor, is the service levels. Right, what we've done is we've gone and figured out a per capita service level for transportation, for recreation, for general government, for fire protection. And we can't charge a higher service level going forward than what is currently being offered. So right now, if there is an average of, take an example. If there's an average of 1 pumper truck per 1,000 people going forward, we can still only project 1 pumper truck per 1,000 people in terms of growth. We can't turn around and say all of a sudden we're going to increase the service level and have 2 pumper trucks per 1,000 people. That's something that you can't do within the Act. The one thing I can tell you, however, you're maxed out on your service levels for general government, for fire protection, and for recreation. There is room to increase the amount of development charge for transportation. I think you're around 70% of the current service level, but we didn't want to have a development charge that was in the 10-15% higher than what the current rate is, but you do have the ability to increase it. I would imagine it would be about $300 or $400 more, and that would be tied directly to transportation only.
I guess my question is that, you know, we looked at, you provided all the nice information for everybody that's within the county of Lanark. But I think there's that lingering person, or that, you know, the city of Ottawa, that's our next door neighbor, that has, I think they're quite significantly higher development fees than what we're charging right now.
There's no question, Councillor. They're in the $25,000 a single detached. Mississippi Mills, Carlton Place, they're all up in the $15,000 to $20,000 per single detached. There's no question about that, sir.
So I guess I understand where you're coming with the approach. You know, I think that there's a lot of people that have probably, I'm not, you know, haven't done as much research obviously as you have. I think that there are a lot of people that are coming from or moving to the township. Probably are, you know, people that have previously lived in Ottawa and are coming here for a little bit more affordability and the quality of life that Montague Township has to offer to everyone. I'm just wondering, you know, 5 years when you set these plans out is a rather long time. A lot can happen over a 5-year span. There can be you know, subdivisions planned and everything else like that. And I just hate to be, I don't want to raise development fees to the point where you don't encourage growth, but I don't want to be too far on the light-hand side that you know, the township doesn't get as much funds as they need to get to ensure that the roads and everything else and the recreation goals and everything else like that are met. So can we put something in there where it can be increased year to year? Is that a possibility?
So two things, Councillor Straight, if I may. The first is what I'll do is I'll do a determination about what the maximum development charge is that you could charge, right? And I can bring that to you for the public meeting. The other thing is that development charge, the way the bylaw is set up, is it's intended to be indexed based on the construction price index, not the consumer price index, but the construction price index, which typically runs 2 to 3 times higher than the consumer price index. So there is an automatic indexing built into this. The other thing that's important to realize, Councillor Straight, is that should there be something that happens that changes the sort of the landscape that we see of Montague Township today, you can always open up your development charge study and reassess things. You don't have to wait for the 5 years. You can do it at any point in time in the future if you saw some significant sort of social changes happening in the township.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That answers a lot of questions for me.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your questions.
Thanks.
Jeff?
Thank you, Reeve. I mean, not to carry on a lot what Councillor Shea was going on, because I think some of those things were along the lines I was, and I might touch base with you offline just so we don't go too far. But and I am curious about the overall, I guess, maximum side. I didn't know there was a maximum. I thought we would look at the market and we see what others are charging to as well, and we want to be competitive in that market. And if that's not really the understanding, I guess, and also the percentage of, I guess, bases that we're able to defer the money. So you're saying, like, we're putting the most we can possibly put into say something like fire, but we could be adding more things. Like, we have something coming up on our next meeting about needing, to maybe add a deputy chief because we're getting bigger and lieutenants were getting bigger, and those are part of a growth sort of idea. So is it a percentage or is it a dollar value associated to those maximum values for each category?
It's a per capita charge. Actually, you figure out on a per person basis how much they are being charged for various services right now. If you wish to change the service level and have a deputy chief or add a second pumper or something like that, you can certainly do that. The Development Charge Act doesn't say that you can't do that stuff. It's just that it can't be funded through a development charge. What would happen, however, is the next time you do an update, there would be a new service level, and that new service level would get projected forward, right? So if next year you increase the fire budget to add new apparatus and new staff, that would get reflected in the 2026 development charge update, or you could redo it at a future point if you wanted to. But we are limited to a per capita service level that has been paid over the previous 5-year period.
I guess that's what when I try to get the understanding of development charges is growth pays for growth. And I mean, you're not always changing the service levels. You're like, in this example I gave, it's because that's kind of where you're growing to, and that's where the growth is paying for growth. That's where I guess my understanding. But I don't mind touching base a little bit more of that, because I want to get an understanding offline so we don't obviously
absolutely. Councilor Carroll, I'd be happy to do that.
So a couple of the side of it, when you were talking about the where the money would go into transportation and what that would look like, I guess in the transportation side of things, I have a couple of questions about the roads. And if we're talking about growth pays for growth, I'm trying to understand how those 3 roads that are in there that are part of that are in our roads needs study, that we would be in our budgetary area, and and in our roads needs study, it's set up to put into our budget that outside of development charges. the idea of why we're using those roads or pulling those out of the roads needs study to use them and pay for them using development charges instead of how that's already set up in our regular budgetary process.
So we went through the roads needs study, and what we did is we identified road rebuilds, and those are typically related to growth issues and wear and tear and pounding on the roads. And in those cases, they were 3 big ticket road items that we felt would benefit from a development charge investment. We could have picked other roads, but I think at the end of the day, these roads fit in nicely with the idea of growth-related costs, and we would be able to fund the 3 roads totally from the development charges. And so they would be rebuilds. But that is, again, we can change those roads. We could identify other roads, but the total dollar value is what we would be looking at that could go into the transportation budget.
Okay, and you know what? I have a few more questions, but I think they might be pretty appropriate for offline and then in preparation for the public meeting. So I appreciate that, Forbes, and I'll be in contact. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor, and I'd happy to speak to you offline as always.
I have a couple of minor questions, Forbes. Are you basically saying under the transportation service, it's pretty well 100% public works?
Yes.
Okay. Also, I remember in the earlier days when we talked about development charges, a certain amount went to parks, but you're saying that about 10% goes to recreation. Does that include parks?
Yes, it does. It includes the recreation complex that has been designed and you've had studies on, and so there is a component of phase 1 of that community park that would be funded through development charges.
Thanks. And 2 other comments. Back a few meetings ago, we had a delegation from who came to talk to us about the possibility of a of a subdivision up on, I believe it was Holbrook Road. And one of the conditions, I guess I could say, that was put on the table it was a question to us. Would we be able to bring pavement across to that subdivision from Rosedale Road? So obviously that's growth related. That would cost quite a bit of money. So I guess the idea then that if there was a subdivision put in there, then a certain amount of money would be generated from that development, which could in turn help with the surfacing of that road. Is that correct?
I don't think that the money would come from the development charge study unless we had a specific proposal for that and we knew what we were talking about in terms of the cost. I would suggest that it would come from the transportation budget in terms of general funds, and that other parts of the transportation budget would be funded by development charges. It is something that I would caution council about giving too much away in terms of capital investment to be able to get the new subdivision. I think you have to be really careful about that kind of thing.
Right.
But I don't think that the development charges would be readily available for that work, but they would be funding other elements of the transportation budget that could free up money that could go in that direction.
And my other question or comment is also regarding the predicting of the population growth. I've always kind of seen Montague in between North Grenville and Beckwith Carlton Place. So we're kind of like in a V there. We're on the right side of Smith Falls for the Ottawa people or people who want to commute to Ottawa. And, you know, to me, as North Grenville and the Carlton Place Beckwith area fills up, then to me, I do see in the future now, whether it's the 5 year or 10 years or longer, I do see it in the future that we're going to start exploding, I think, similarly as those 2 or 3 municipalities have. So it's really good to hear. And I knew this, having sat in on many other development charge studies. I do think it's a great idea that we can open it up. We don't have to wait 5 years.
No.
Because in fact, that population, all we can do now is predict sort of based on what's been happening. But I have a sneaking suspicion that population growth might be more than 300 and some in the next 10 years. It's just my crystal ball.
And I think, Reeve, that's a very well thought out position, and I would have a tendency to agree with you. There has been a real resurgence of growth in what I call the hinterland, outside of the sort of the half hour, 3/4 hour commute of Ottawa, has really seen a bump in growth. And a number of my colleagues think that it's going to be sustained, that it's the beginning of a new trend. Others aren't so convinced of that. The one thing that is important to realize is that if you under project in terms of population, there's no downside to that. More people come in, you get more development charges, you have a bigger bank account than what you had anticipated having. The problem is that when you overestimate growth, you make assumptions in terms of money being there to fund projects. And if that growth doesn't come, then you're sitting with a financial shortfall. So I would rather be a little on the low side with the projection than on the high side. But I do believe, Reeve, that your position is spot on, that you're going to be experiencing more growth than what has been seen historically. And it's just a question of how much more.
Yeah, thanks. Karen, please.
Just a question, because Bill, you touched on the trails with reference to recreation, and then Forbes mentioned the complex. Since council hasn't made any decision on anything with reference to the recreation, the money that goes in there doesn't necessarily mean it's earmarked for a complex. It's there for us to be able to use for recreation.
That's correct, based on the service levels. But we have targeted the complex, but you're absolutely right, because there's been no formal position taken on that. It is more related to a general fund, but that was the one that we put in the report. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you, Forbes, for this great presentation and all the answers to all our questions. It's been very good. And so we'll look forward then to the public meeting.
Thank you very much. And may I extend my best wishes to your council and yourself and your families and your staff for the holiday season. And thank you very much for the work in 2021. It's been a pleasure working with you, and it's been very, very enjoyable. Thank you very much, and all the best.
Thanks, Forbes.
Thanks,
I do
Forbes.
have a
Thank you,
motion
Forbes.
here. I do have a motion. It was moved by Claus Vandermeer and seconded by Jeff Carroll, that the committee of the whole receive the development charges study report, and that the following be recommended to council. That council proceed with the next steps as listed on page 14 of the attached council presentation. development charges, scheduling a public meeting for development charges review on January the 20th, 2022 at 6 p.m. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, thanks, Forbes. Bye-bye. We're moving on to the next report, and that's going to be given by our Fire Chief Miles Greer, and that's on the increased training budget. Hi, Miles.
Good evening, Reed
I'll
Dobson.
pass the screen over to you.
Yes, good evening. How's everybody this evening?
Good.
Today I bring a recommendation to you.
Excuse me.
Yes, Ian.
Oh, yes, just
Yeah.
one moment, please, Miles. Ian, please.
My apologies to Chief Greer and the council. I need to declare a conflict of interest on this item. Please, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ian. Okay, Miles, back to you.
Okay, so thank you very much. So the recommendation for my first report this evening is to increase the training budget to pay the volunteers $150 for an 8-hour day of outsourced training. And this goes back to last year, we were directed by council to do a survey of Lanark County, of the fire wages, and if we were in the same form for pay schedules. So after completing the survey, it does look like a wage per hour. We are very, very close to most of the municipalities, but we do lack in our paying our volunteers for training. The only training I pay them for right now is if it's in-house on a training evening. They don't get any kind of outsourced money for any other training. So I've given you a bit of a history of what our points is. And I've also put some attachments on from 5 other municipalities that were able to give me some information that I could work with. So I'm open for any questions in regards to, there may be some how my points work and whatnot. So I'm open to any questions, Reed Dobson.
Okay, thanks, Miles. Claus?
Thanks, Reeve. No, not a question, Miles, just a comment. I think you've done an excellent job on the detailed report. I see the hourly rate is very much in comparison to other townships and that. And as far as extra money for training, I think I've said to you before, you can never have enough training with the staff because things are changing daily, with chemicals in house fires and chemicals in cars and so forth. So to learn how to deal with that stuff from a safety point of view, I don't think we could spend enough money on training. So kudos to you for the recommendation, and I certainly will support it.
Thank you. Karen, please.
So looking for clarification, the training you're talking about is like a per diem of
Yes, it would.
150.
That's correct. It would be a per diem, yes.
Okay, and then also with reference to the hourly rate that the point system equals to, it can't go below what minimum wage is though.
So yeah, that's correct. So that would work out to about $18.75 an hour at
Well,
150 per diem for an
No,
8-hour.
not worried about the per diem, worried about the regular point system.
Yep.
Just ensure that that point system value doesn't drop below the minimum wage that comes into effect January 1st.
And that's correct. When you're seeing my points here, Councillor Jennings, so we'll go with the 2017 at 1437 a point, keeping in mind there's 3 points per call. So that 1437 would be times 3. So that would equals 4311. And the first 2 hours is 3 points. So if you divide that by 2, that would equal 2155 an hour. And then in the third hour, they would get the complete 1437 times 3, $43 an hour for the third hour. So you'll find that even with the 2018, with the more calls we had, we are still above the minimum wage, of course.
Okay. And then, of course, these all go through, unfortunately, as taxable items for the firefighters.
That's correct. There is a bit of a tax exemption, which the OFAC is working on a 100 complete exemption, but we're certainly not there yet, but we hope to be soon enough.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Miles. I see no other further questions, so we do have a motion here, which was moved by Jeff Carroll and seconded by Karen Jennings, that the committee of the whole receive the increased training budget report, and that the following be recommended to council: to direct staff to increase training in the 2022 budgeted discussions, to pay firefighter volunteers $150 for an 8-hour day of outsourced training. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. And thank you, Miles. And Christy, are you able to call Ian back in, please?
I can let him know, yeah.
Okay, Ian, we're going on then to 3C. I'm not sure, do you have to declare for this one?
Yes, I do agree. I need to declare a conflict of interest as well on this.
Okay, that's why I called you back, because we just did the one, so thank you. Okay. So we're going to move back to you then, Miles, for this. This is the to amend the Schedule C to bylaw 3166 2010.
Yes, thank you, Reeve Dobson. The Appendix C of bylaw 3166 2010. I'm looking for recommendation to be approved and amended. So a bit of the background on this particular bylaw 3166 2010. So I'm looking to have it amended to today's fire standards for protection. So this amendment to Appendix C will provide the fire department with a good succession plan for the future. After completing the survey of all the departments, I realized that we're the only one that does not have a deputy chief's position in the fire service. So in the discussion and options, Appendix C, I would be looking to add a deputy chief along with 2 lieutenants. We currently have 5 captains in place. So our old 2010 3166 does not even reflect that. So we need to amend that for sure. But so I would be looking to add 2 lieutenants to move up when a captain would to be retire or removed from service for whatever reason. And then the deputy chief, of course, would be working under the previous chief and learning the role. So if I was ever sick or absent, that our fire department can successfully move forward with no hiccups. So I did actually attach the new amendment C that I would be looking for, and also the job descriptions for deputy chief and lieutenant. These descriptions were picked out of Lanark County, but they were kind of molded for the Montague Fire Department service. So that's what I bring to you today, councillors. Again, I'm open for any questions or concerns you have.
Claus?
Yeah, thanks, Reeve. Thanks for the report, Miles. Just a couple of questions. So you have 5 captains right now.
That's correct.
Okay, so if you put 2 lieutenants in place, would that reduce down to 3 captains and 2 lieutenants?
Not at the present time. No, I would like to have the 5 captains with the 2 lieutenants underneath them. So when one captain would be retire or leave the service for whatever reason, it would be just a automatic that lieutenant would move up into the captain position, and then we would fill a lieutenant position underneath them. So you always have somebody working towards filling an officer's position but they have experience from, on-hand training with the officer.
Okay, if I may follow up, Bree, then let me just clarify here how the ranking goes. So you got the chief, then the captains, then the lieutenant?
So you would have the chief, the deputy chief, the captains, and then the lieutenants, correct, Councillor?
Okay. And as some of the captains retire, would you replace those captains or just work with your lieutenants?
The lieutenants would probably move up into the captain position because they've been trained to move up. And then we would fill the lieutenant position with another lieutenant.
Okay, so you would always have 5 captains then?
Yes, correct. Yes.
Okay, and your
So
captains,
I should have mentioned the lieutenant's position. The financial implication there would be around $500 each a year. So it would be around $1,000 for the 2 lieutenants. And the deputy chief, the deputy chief, I would be looking at around $7,500 a year, plus their points that they would accumulate in the year. I should have mentioned that. I apologize, councillors.
yeah, okay. So for a financial implication then with this, how much would this totally add to your budget then?
So we'd be looking around 8,500 to 9,000 to the budget. Councillor Jennings brought up a good point during our budget meeting that the 7,500 for the deputy, we were going to speak with Andrew to see if that would come out of the volunteer points or the wages. So we just haven't got clarification on that yet.
Would you, one more question if I may, Reeve, then for this deputy chief position, advertise within or source with outside?
I would be advertising within my department for these positions.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Karen?
So the complement size that we're going to have is going to be comparable to our other municipalities that are our size by adding the 2 lieutenants. And I'm surprised because we used to have a deputy. So when did that position get eliminated?
Yeah.
So when Ronnie Haskins, the previous chief, was planning on retirement, he did bring in a deputy chief at that time, and that was myself. And when I got moved up, then a deputy never got filled for that position again. But I see that it was never put in the Appendix C of 2010-3166 that there was ever a deputy in place. So that's why I'm looking to amend that bylaw.
Okay. And then for the complement size, though, we're going to have 5 captains and 2 lieutenants. That's normal for another rural similar sized municipality?
That is correct. It's normal for a fire department of a 25 to 30 member fire department.
Okay.
And I think sorry, go ahead, Karen, sorry.
So the only thing that I would like to ask is that the deputy chief and the lieutenants, that does not come out of the point value for the firefighters, that those remain in the salary line so that it does not drop those points to a lesser value. If I could have support for that.
We can certainly talk to Andrew and work that out, I'm sure.
So basically what we're talking about here, which is most important, is the whole idea of succession planning, which is so important. Miles, I have just one question about financially then. I would think that it's also going to be impacted a bit because the deputy fire chief would have to be go through a little bit more training and possibly be involved in some of these day-long training sessions. So is that correct?
That's correct, and that's incorporated in my first report for the training budget. That will certainly reflect onto that also.
Yes, thanks. I did see another hand, Klaus.
Yes, thanks, Reeve. Just one more quick question. The selection for these positions, what would be the criteria of doing that? How would you go about that?
So it will be the officers that I currently have and myself will be the hiring committee. And then also I'm looking at one volunteer to sit on the hiring committee board also. If it would be an officer that was applying for the position, which is quite possible, then I would be looking to probably fill his spot with another volunteer. So the hiring committee is done within in-house between officers and volunteer firemen.
Okay.
Okay, Jeff, and then back to Karen. Jeff?
Thanks, Reeve. Miles, this is good. I think this is good succession planning for sure. I have a quick question just about the, I guess, the workload side of things with bringing on a deputy chief, and it's more of looking at the office side of it, where would this in any way help free up a little bit more time away for the administrative assistant away from the fire side of it, just so that they would be able to, if we're looking at a focus side of where them to go is being able to have that focus more in the office, because there's some of the uptake that maybe the deputy chief or the lieutenants might be able to help fill in for that. Just looking to see if there's an offset that we can get that might get our admin assistant that she might be able, or that person might be able to move over to support in other areas.
Certainly there is an opportunity for that. Off the top of my head right now, I can't really come up with what they would do to assist what my assistant currently does. So it would really basically, a deputy would be helping with our training officer with, a lot of training, in-house training. So there certainly is an opportunity for that, Councillor Carroll. And I could probably get back to you with a little more breakdown, at a later date of where we could maybe utilize such a idea.
I just to follow up real quick, I appreciate it. I mean, like in any side of this, as we're looking to make changes to the way that our structures are, if we can find efficiencies too as well, if we can move work to the certain people, that's where I'm kind of going with it. Just so we're kind of looking at all those opportunities, and we're only adding what we're needing to add. I'm for the direction we're going. Don't get me wrong. I just want to make sure that we're doing it as obviously cost effective, as efficient as possible. Thanks, Miles. And I look forward to maybe that conversation a little bit further.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Karen?
Miles, can you clarify for me when you say your interview panel will consist of your officers as well as some of the volunteers? When you say officers, are you referring to your captains will sit with you to do the hiring for the lieutenants?
That's correct. Yes, the captains would sit with myself, and then we usually try, in this case, I'd like to bring in a volunteer to sit also on the hiring committee.
May I
That's
ask why
how
you
Sorry, go ahead, Karen.
why you would bring in a volunteer to sit when you're hiring for a level above them? Because I understand then your captains, but why you would bring because that person you're bringing in, this person's then going to be their boss, technically, by a lieutenant. So why you would bring somebody?
Correct. To keep everything transparent, I like to have one off the floor, working with our team. It's certainly not written in stone, Councillor Jennings, that we do that. It's just been, some past practice that we've done. Seems to have worked over the years. Our normal hiring right now is if we're hiring a volunteer fireman, it's all officers and chief at that point. And then they go in front of the association, which is all our volunteers. And then at that point, our volunteers, they have the right to say yes or no to a new hiree. So it just keeps them in the loop of the hiring sessions and how they go. But I totally understand where you're coming from, that this would be a boss to them. So yes, I may have to relook at the process of the hiring, and somebody yourself might be able to help me out a bit there.
Okay, so I don't see any other questions then, Miles. However, I do have a motion here, was moved by Karen Jennings and seconded by Ian Straight. Oh, I guess
Oh.
we will have to get someone else to second this one, please. Claus Vandermeer. Thank you. That the committee of the whole received the following report. The amend Schedule C to bylaw 3166/2010, and that the following be recommended to council to direct staff to bring the amended Appendix C of bylaw 3166/2010 to a future council meeting to be approved. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And if we can get Ian back in, please.
So thank you very much, Reeve Dobson. I would like to wish all the councillors a very safe and merry holiday. Take care, guys, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Miles.
Thank you, Miles. And if you can
Merry
pass the
Christmas, Miles.
same on to your volunteers.
I will do. Thank you.
Thanks for all the great work. Okay, yeah, thanks, Ian, you're back. We're going to go on to 3D, and that's going to be your report, Andrew, on the CCBF 5-year banking limit. So over to you, Andrew.
Thank you. Yeah, so this report here is kind of a quick report, and basically what we're going to do is look at using some money from the gas tax reserve instead of the Public Works Capital Reserve for the micro resurfacing of Adirondack this year that had been done, instead of the Richardson Road culvert, which is still in progress but hasn't been completed by year end. That was where we had budgeted to use gas tax funds for 2021, and that now we're looking at using those in 2022. So that leaves a little bit of extra in the reserve that AMO has reminded us gets monitored, and we report to that at year end, so that there's that amount of, they're showing us of 71,279 that should be used up. So by switching from the Public Works Capital Reserve to the gas tax reserve for that amount, then we can fulfill that obligation. And then looking forward into our budget for next year, we're also utilizing more gas tax funds proposed in our capital budget, so that that 5-year amount will be something we have to monitor so closely. Will help us with our capital projects. So this report for tonight would have council give direction for specific use of this reserve that we could then use.
Thank you,
that
Andrew.
year in.
Okay, thanks. I see no questions. So I do have a
Makes
motion
sense.
here. It was moved by Ian Straight, second by Claus Vandermeer, that the committee of the whole receive the following report, the CCBF 5-year banking limit, and that the following be recommended to council, that council direct staff to utilize funds in the amount of $71,300 from the gas tax reserve instead of the Public Works Capital Reserve towards the 2021 budgeted and approved capital project of microsurfacing Adirondack. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, thanks for this report, Andrew. And I guess you'll be coming up a little bit later. So the next report is the one on microsurfacing report, and that's going to be yours, Steve.
Thank you, Reeve.
Yeah, hi, Steve.
Yeah, thank you, Reeve. So this report is just looking for council to provide staff direction to proceed with joining the Lander County microsurfacing tender. We completed a similar motion last year to complete, and we did end up with a really really good savings by doing this with the county. So just looking for consensus from council and direction to proceed with this again.
Okay, thank you. Claus?
Just a comment, Reeve, if I may. Excellent report, Steve, again. And I think this is just fantastic to do this. Sharing services with the county or with other townships is certainly the way to go to save ourselves a lot of money. And Harper County Road is certainly, and River Road, part of our capital projects. Great work. Thanks.
Okay, we do have a motion. It was moved by you, Claus Vandermeer, and seconded by Jeff Carroll. That the committee of the whole received the following report, the microsurfacing report, and that the following be recommended to council. That council provides direction to staff to proceed with joining Lanark County Microsurfacing 2022 tender. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you, Steve, for that one. Back to you again on the Richardson Road culvert option.
Thank you, Reeve. Yeah, so Richardson Road culvert, our engineer completed a delegation to council, kind of outlining his findings from his engineering on it. And we're just looking for consensus from council to proceed with his recommendation. I kind of broken down costings of two different scenarios that he has included. I did speak with him about guide rail after his initial inclusion of it, and say that I believe due to it only having 80 vehicles a day on that roadway, it was not something that justifies the financial burden that it does cost the taxpayers. So that would be something we would definitely have as provision. So all costs have that broken out of it. And I've broken it over his concrete box culvert 100-year lifespan and broke it down to a yearly costings for council to kind of see the long-term costs of each option.
Thanks, Steve. Any questions? Jeff?
Just a couple of quick ones, Steve. I guess one of the things with that culvert is, and on that road, it's 100 years. So I'm just going to kind of throw a hypothetical out there of 75 years from now, when fortunately probably none of us will still be around, and there could be who knows where the township will be in that time. If that road is all of a sudden now becoming a busier spot, or it's a hot spot, and is it wide enough? Is it, if it was a go with it, or at that time with that culvert, maybe they might say that we have to replace that culvert because we have to widen the road, or is that culvert wide enough to be able to deem the actual, if they're in that 100 years that we're talking about, that if there's a significant increase on that road and it has to be widened, or is it wide enough?
That's a great question. It's right now our existing roadway, it's about 5.5 meters. The cross section is going to be a bit wider than that, so it will have enough width. If there was, some growth and there's ever upgrades to be made to Richardson, there would be adequate width there for that expansion to occur. Okay,
I appreciate that, because I still feel that this is almost a little bit over the top, but I mean, if that's the lifespan and that's what it is, we have budgeted for it, and I mean, I guess that's kind of the direction we should go, I guess. Thanks, Stephen, for everything you did on this one too as well, man.
Thank you.
So Steve, just going along with that thought of Jeff's about the width, if something down the road, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, that area of Montague started increasing in population quite a bit more than it is right now, at that point, Public Works could bring a report to council to install guardrails then, could they?
Yeah, it could be done after the fact. It's as everything is, it's probably going to be quite a bit more expensive after the initial construction is completed, but that's definitely what would take place here.
Yeah, I'm thinking like many years down the road. So anyways, yes, Claus?
Thanks, Reeve. On the guardrail, not to belabor it an awful lot, Steve, and I understand the recommendations, and I guess I can live with it. Was what, an extra $30,000 for the guardrails?
That would be a minimum, yeah. 30 to 45,000.
32 something or 30 something. In the report that they gave you, are they stating clearly that a guardrail is not necessary?
They will not say that it's not necessary.
Oh, so if there's an accident and we didn't put a guardrail, who's gonna take the brunt of that responsibility? Us or the company that put the box culvert in there?
So this was kind of discussed at their delegation, I believe. He kind of touched base on it, and in our small municipality, it's basically, there's other areas throughout our municipality that have much steeper embankments and do not have any guide rails right now. So it'd come down to financially, the municipality has or many other locations that they need to sink guide rails into, instead of Richardson Road where the average traffic is 80. And any roadway accident, the township will likely be named as responsible. So if there's an accident on this stretch, we would be responsible for it.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Steve. I don't see any other questions. We do have a motion here, moved by Jeff Carroll, second by Karen Jennings, that the committee of the whole receive the Richardson Road culvert option report, and that the following be recommended to council: that staff be directed to proceed with Keystone Bridge Management Corp. A recommendation of a concrete box culvert for Richardson Road, and that staff be approved to publish the Richardson Road culvert tender prior to final 2022 budget approval. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. And moving on, the next one is also yours, Steve. That's on the Birchall Road speed limit.
Thank you, Reeve. So staff's brought forward a report after delegation was received to council on the speed concerns along a section on Birchall Road between the two S-bends is what was specifically identified. The delegation did speak to possibly they would like the whole section on Birchall reduced, but they did agree that that is a little too big of a goal to have there. So I went back and looked into our readings that we've had previously in 2019 or 2020. We did have the sign up in this section. I placed it up again in this section twice within the past year, and I detailed all the findings. I won't go through all that, as I'm sure all council has read it. All the statistics through there are found, and we got an average back. It was in the 55 to 58 kilometers an hour through the section. There is 5% that does go above the 80 unposted limit. And I continue to monitor this and report back to council if there's any changes that there is spike in speed. We can have the OPP control this area, or if council would wish, we definitely could reduce this section, but staff would, instead of the 50 kilometer an hour suggestion on the delegation, staff's recommendation would be to a 60, keep consistent with our existing bylaw. And it's all in there for council. If there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
I see no other questions. I guess just one. Do we ever consider other types of signs, like let's say an S curve sign or whatever?
Yeah, that's definitely signs in our sign budget. There's signs there. There is signs along the section of roadway. There's no recommended speed for the curvature there. That could be one thing that Public Works could look into at this time.
Yeah, I would just, we'll vote on this motion here, but I would just request maybe myself that, it's just my opinion that we look into other options with signage. There's many different types of signs that can be put up to try to help monitor the speed there, I think. But that would just, if you could come back with another report there, that'd be great. I do have Jeff?
Yeah, to piggyback on that, Reed, because that's kind of a little bit where I was going to as well is, I mean, it's tough because I think coming from your police services board meeting too as well, and talking about empirical data too as well. And if where these are coming up, it's a good one to talk about. And also I think other sign options are a great one. The watch for children or watch for people are a good one. And it's one that I think we've also talked to Stephen about, and I think it's probably in the back of his mind right now with looking at different options of Maid and Montague signs too as well, that might help people realize that there's people enjoying country living at its best as they're walking on the roads. And we're looking at ideas maybe that could direct them out that way to show the public safety in our township. Because it's tricky with this one, I find too as well, is that the majority of our drivers, we can see that in the empirical data that they're driving appropriately. They're driving the way the country they drive. I think that most of us expect in the way that we do. But I mean, I speak with obviously on a personal note on that side of it. It's really hard to fix stupid in the sense, and that I mean we saw that one person that's going 100 and what was it 160, and we're going to have those ones that are obviously a very small percentage, but changing the speed limit, and I think even there was in the police services board meeting they talked about. Correct me if I'm wrong, Reeve Dobson. That small enforcement jumps don't always fix that problem either. So this is a really tricky one. I say this just because it's I know the residents that are watching it is the mindset that I go into it and try to get from the police services board, and also looking at maybe other and I would really encourage those residents that are on that road and looking at it as maybe thinking of different options that they might think of that we'd be open to hear about for how we can just increase the safety, because speed limits is not going to be the only way to do it. So anyway, that's sort of my thought process. I thank you, Stephen, for the data you gave us, because it is very important for this decision making. So
Thanks, Jeff. Okay, then I do have a motion. It was moved by Karen Jennings, seconded by Ian Straight, that the committee of the whole receive the Birchall Road speed report and that the following be recommended to council. That committee of the whole directs staff to keep Birchall Road as an on-posted roadway, and that staff continue to utilize the township radar to monitor the speed along the section of Birchall Road with speed concerns. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Thank you. Thank you for that one, Steve.
I believe that's all for me. So I thank you all, council, for the 2021 season, and I wish you all a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Merry Christmas, Steve.
Same with you, Steve, and your family. Thanks. Okay, then moving on to the next report, and that's going to be yours, Andrew. That's the 2021 Accessibility Status Report.
Thank you. So this report, it's for the 2021 accessibility status, and you probably remember the similar report was done the same time last year. And so at this time of year, we just submitted our accessibility compliance report for 2021, like we do as well on an annual basis. So this report gives us an update of our accessibility achievements for 2021, which includes the inclusion of accessibility criteria in the consideration of the redesign of the municipal buildings and the continued updating of materials on the municipal website. So I've provided this report to council this evening for information purposes.
Thank you, Andrew. Yes, Karen?
Just wondering, is there any thought moving forward of having the outside sources that submit material also meeting the accessibility requirements, so that the background colors, shading, the font sizes, et cetera, all meet the accessibility requirements?
You're referring to, sorry, the website? Or?
No. So for example, when and let's say, for example, I'll use the example, Forbes did a presentation tonight to ensure that his material being presented meets the accessibility requirements, the same as those that submit, because sometimes people are using a font that are much too small versus meeting the accessibility. If we could put a general statement to ensure that all those that submit material to the municipality meet the minimum requirements. So for example, like an Arial 12 is the font that should be used, and then verifying that the coloring also allows so that the visually impaired don't have an issue trying to read some of the material.
Right, we could make note of that moving forward. And
Okay, that'd be great.
love to integrate that as part of that, yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you. As a person who sometimes struggles with the background colors, etc., just to make sure.
Yeah, have a consistency there.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good comment, Karen. Okay, we're moving on. We have a motion moved by Ian Straight, second by Claus Vandermeer, that the Committee of the Whole receive the 2021 Accessibility Status Report, and that the following be recommended to Council, that Council receive this report for information. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. The next one is also yours, Andrew, on the planning services.
Yes, thank you. So this report is in regards to the shared planning services. It's currently proposed, and the recommendation is that council direct staff to provide a planning service agreement to the town of Smiths Falls for consideration to be entered into for 2022. Just for the quick background, this was something that came about from the Township Planning Services Report presented to Council November 2nd, and Council chose option 1, which was to advertise and hire for a full-time manager of planning position and agree to explore the sharing of this planning position with one or more neighboring municipalities with the expectation of this to be completed for 2022. So at the last meeting, we had 2 councillors appointed to an interviewing committee, and there's an ongoing process there after our advertisement for that job position closed. And now one of the next steps in that process is to provide the agreement that's been drafted and attached to this report to the town, and then let them review it as well, and give them a chance to see if it's what their expectations are, and give any feedback or comments back to Montague in the process of coming up with a mutually acceptable agreement that we would both decide we want to enter into. So the action tonight would be to just provide that draft copy to the town.
Thank you, Andrew. Jeff?
Just to touch on that real quick, Reeve Dobson, thank you. I think this is a good opportunity. We did talk about this in our last meeting, and we're wondering about how we would find a dance partner if we do hire a planner, and we have found a dance partner very quickly, which I think is fantastic. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to be able to move forward with this. We found the way to make this financially feasible as we move forward with this. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to do this. So thank you, and I hope I look forward to moving forward with this.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. And I also will say thank you to the interviewing panel, being Karen and Jeff and Andrew and others, I guess, who helped there from the town. So thank you for all of that. I know you've had several meetings, several interviews and so on. So it'll be exciting to move this forward, and hopefully it'll be acceptable by the town, and we can move forward into 2022. So thank you all for that. We have a motion. It was moved by Claus Vandermeer, second by Jeff Carroll, that the Committee of the Whole receive the Planning Services Report, and that the following be recommended to Council, that Council directs staff to provide a planning service agreement to the town of Smith Falls for consideration to be entered into for 2022. All in favor? Thank you. Then moving on to the next one is also yours, Andrew, and that's the 2022 meeting calendar.
Right. The most exciting report of the evening, I'm sure. So we say thank you to Christy actually for putting together this calendar. It's similar to the calendar we've used in the past and gives us an idea of different conferences and council meetings as scheduled for 2022. And yeah, it kind of gives us a lookout that another year's gone by quickly, and we're looking at the next one. So
I just wondered if it's possible that we could get these printed out at the office so that everybody would have the same consistent format, and then everybody could pin it up at home and help. Could we do that, Christy?
Absolutely.
Great. They do that at the county, and I think it works really well. So thank you for that. Okay, we do have a motion. It was moved by Jeff Carl, second by Karen Jennings. The Committee of the Whole received the following report, the 2022 meeting calendar, and that the following be recommended to council, that council will receive this report for information. All in favor? And that's carried. So thank you, Andrew, for that, and also for your
Thank you.
work on that, Christy. Now we're moving on. We have no reports of committees, nor petitions, motions, and notice of motions. No unfinished business and other business. And before we adjourn, Christy, do we have any questions from the public?
I have two questions.
Okay.
So the first one, they're both in regards to the development charges presentation. So it does say, so the first one is, in the report regarding the allocation of development charges, why was the amount for recreation gone from 9.8% to 0%?
Andrew?
I think they're referring to the page where it lists the percentages for the residential allocation, and then the other column is the commercial allocation. So the commercial column is at 0, and which it should be, and then, but it didn't go from 9.8 or whatever to 0. That's two different ratings: the residential rating and the commercial rating.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. And I think I see you nodding your head, Karen, so I guess it's a yay also. And
100% correct, Andrew. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, and the next question?
So the next one is, it also shows a development charge for the construction of mobile homes. Are mobile homes being allowed in the township again? And can they be constructed as granny suites or second houses?
Huh.
Anybody have an answer? Karen, did you?
Well, that's two questions.
That was included in our official plan, which is why it's probably in the development charges, to make note of it. Because it did list it for the secondary dwelling on the shared service properties, not a standalone, but it did say it under the, like a granny suite type thing, connecting to either water or sewer. So that's probably why it's noted separately. But we can certainly follow up with confirming with Forbes.
So maybe could we request you to do that, Andrew, please, and then maybe get back to the questionnaire?
Yes, and what we could do is have Forbes answer that question at our public meeting, which would be a good venue to provide that answer. And then any other questions that may come up.
Yeah, perfect. Yes, Jeff?
That was on my list of off-air topic questions that I had for Forbes. So I mean, I definitely will be there and in our open meeting. So that was a great question though.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then that brings us to the end of our meeting. And I guess that brings us to the end of the year for the meetings. So as I said earlier, I hope everybody has a great holiday, and please try to be safe and and have a little bit of fun also. So it's been great working with everybody for another year, and we'll be looking forward to 2022. And so with that, I will read my last motion, which was moved by Karen Jennings and seconded by Ian Straight, that the committee of the whole do now adjourn at 7:47 PM. All in favor? That's carried. And I probably should have just opened it up to anyone else who may want to say any closing remarks before we close off. Yes, Claus?
Due to the current condition of what's going on out there with this pandemic, I think I'm going to go down for a long winter's nap.
All right, we'll see you when you wake up.
Hibernate.
What else can we do? Good night, everybody.
All right.
Have a Merry Christmas.
Merry
Everyone have a
Christmas,
great
Happy New
Christmas.
Year.